Well, I'd like to welcome Shayne McCarthy to the Resilient Biome podcast. Shayne, very nice to meet you for the first time.
Pleasure is all mine, Rich. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we're going to be talking about hydrogen water today, and
Ooh.
I know that you have been educating people around the world for about a decade and offering many benefits to their health through your water filtration systems, your hydrogen
Mhm.
water systems, all of that. And I'll say from the outset here, I am brand new to hydrogen water. I've been
Perfect.
drinking it for less than 3 weeks, but it didn't take long for me to do the research, and I'm very excited about the potential for it, but I'm still very much in the learning phase as well. And I've talked to, in this 3 weeks, 20 or 30 people about hydrogen water, maybe two ever heard of it. So I
Wow.
thought that should be our starting question. What in the world is hydrogen water?
Well, it is a great question because it's usually followed by another question. Isn't there already hydrogen in the water?
I've
And
already had people ask me that question.
I'm sure you have. I'm going to preface this with something I recommend to everyone is don't believe a single word that I say here. Research and look up everything that I say here because
There it
that's
is.
where I'm not, I've been learning about hydrogen water and since 2013. I've got my own story as to how I got into this industry, but to answer your question, hydrogen water. So drinking alkaline water has been a something that people have been doing for quite some time, right? It's they do it because we do live in a very acidic environment. The foods that we eat, the drinks that we drink, the air that we breathe, the more sedentary lifestyle that people live creates a more acidic environment in their body. So naturally, it's an easy to think that if I drink alkaline water, that will balance that out, right? But if you cut open an apple and let it sit there for half an hour, what happens, Rich?
It oxidizes, it turns brown.
I knew you were going to say the educated version of it. It's yes, it turns brown. And so drinking alkaline water is like cutting that sliver of brown apple off so you get fresh apple again. But if you don't change the environment in which the apple is in and you let it sit there for another half hour, it's just going to turn brown again. And so you start looking at why. Why is the apple turning brown? And you already said it, because of the oxidation. And similar to why we are acidic, it's based on the large amount of oxidative stress that's in our body that has created an imbalance at a cellular level, and which then leads to other imbalances in your body, like inflammation, and it starts stemming out from there. That it's become pretty common knowledge that most illnesses and ailments are caused by oxidative stress and inflammation, but I would be willing to say that most of the oxidative stress and inflammation is caused due to an imbalance at a cellular health or a cellular level. We can talk about pH, we can talk about minerals or methylation of the minerals, we can talk about oxidative stress and inflammation, but it's about getting to the root cause of why this is happening so that we can actually make some serious progress in our overall health.
So, then what is hydrogen water?
I guess that
Then
didn't really answer your question.
that's
Hydrogen
a
water.
great illustration. I really appreciate that. That's super helpful.
Right, man, my pleasure. But let me actually answer the question, I guess. the So hydrogen rich water is water that should be filtered properly, but water that has hydrogen gas dissolved into it. And so that takes that question of, oh, I thought hydrogen already had, or water already had hydrogen in it. It does. H2O water as a solvent already has hydrogen in it. Hydrogen rich water has H2 hydrogen gas dissolved into it so that it can enter into your body. Water is actually just one of the ways of administering hydrogen gas into your body. One of the other ways is breathing it in or inhaling hydrogen gas. You can bathe in hydrogen gas, or at a hospital or clinical level, you can have hydrogen-rich saline injected into you. And so obviously the saline's only going to happen at a hospital or clinical level, but it's about the hydrogen gas. Water, breathing, bathing, and saline are the delivery methods to the hydrogen gas. And then what hydrogen is doing is getting to that root cause of why people are acidic. So people are actually achieving what they're trying to achieve with alkaline water, but doing it with hydrogen water, because it will reduce oxidative stress in ways that other antioxidants can't, which restores a balance at a cellular level, which opens up the anti-inflammatory pathways and allows your body to operate the way it's supposed to at an optimal level.
So the hydrogen, H2O is water, and
Mm-hmm.
in the gas form, it's two atoms of hydrogen, right? So H2,
Yep.
a molecule. So what you're saying is through some sort of process, and we'll get into that,
Mm-hmm.
you need to cleave the oxygen atom off, and that's what the H2 gas remains. And if
Yep.
that is not happening, am I correct to say you're not getting extra hydrogen into your body?
You're not getting extra hydrogen into your body, nor are you getting any of the antioxidant benefits that come with hydrogen water. There's many different ways of measuring different aspects of the water, one of which is called ORP, oxidation reduction potential. That's the acronym ORP, and companies will advertise that they have antioxidant rich water because their water has a negative ORP in it. But if you measure the hydrogen and there's no hydrogen there, it will not live up to the ORP, the oxidation reduction potential, unless hydrogen is present in the water. That's been proven many times.
Nice. You were talking about benefits of helping the free radicals and the
Mhm.
oxidative stress. Maybe you could just walk us through what you consider some of the absolute top benefits.
Well, the first thing that hydrogen will do is it will selectively scavenge for the hydroxyl radical. Now let me explain here. There's different free radicals in your body, and I compare it to bacteria. It's very similar to, you think bacteria, think it's bad, but obviously we know in our gut we have healthy bacteria that is necessary for the body. Just like bacteria, there's free radicals that are in your body that are actually supporting of your overall immune system and overall health. The hydrogen molecule will selectively scavenge for only the hydroxyl radical. And this is the most cell damaging cytotoxic free radical in your body. It also is a byproduct of ATP production, which is, the powerhouse of your cells is the mitochondria. Creates the ATP. That's essentially our gas. Hydroxyl radical is the exhaust from the gas. For every action there's a reaction. The action being the ATP production and us using energy, the reaction being the hydroxyl radical. Due to the food that we eat, the drinks that we drink, the air that we breathe, our bodies aren't creating the amount of hydrogen that it once used to create. So it's not keeping up to the amount of oxidative stress that is being created by your body's own energy. And so by supplementing with the hydrogen, you're then keeping up with that oxidative stress and again restoring that balance.
So it's a selective antioxidant for the hydroxyl radical, you said. Does it only, it's select for it, does it only reduce the
Hydroxyl
hydroxyl
radical?
radical?
Yeah, it's been, the mechanisms of hydrogen are still being determined. That's why it hasn't fully hit the market as strong as it can and should. But there's evidence that suggests that it could scavenge the peroxynitrite free radical as well, but it primarily it targets the hydroxyl radical, which is again the one that is the most cell damaging free radical. And the cool thing about hydrogen too, is that it will actually, when it neutralizes the hydroxyl radical, it actually converts two hydroxyl radicals into H2O. So the conversion is H2, the hydrogen molecule, plus 2OH, because the hydroxyl radical is OH, oxygen and hydrogen, and then that equals 2H2O. So not only is it neutralizing the most cell damaging free radical in your body, but it's also converting it into water, which then hydrates you at a cellular level. And equally as important, it allows for your body an easy way to expel the now neutralized free radical out of your body. You know, if you take vitamin C, which is a very popular antioxidant, one, due to the molecular structure of vitamin C, it's not going to get through your blood-brain barrier, your skin barrier, in the way that hydrogen can and does. But two, you know, it will scavenge free radicals, all free radicals. It will neutralize those. But remember, for every action, there's a reaction. How is your body now expelling these out of your body? With hydrogen, the equation is very, very easy. And that's what I love about hydrogen, because it gets right back down to the basics of it, which is, I think, what we as humans really need to do, especially when it comes to our health.
So I take antioxidants. I'm sure a lot of listeners do. And again, of course, you're not giving medical advice, but
No.
um, neither am I. Let the record show. But does the average person maybe doesn't need the extra antioxidants if they're taking in a sufficient number of amount of hydro water, or is it still good for other things?
As someone that's drank hydrogen water for well over a decade, I also spend a lot of money on different supplements for my health. I believe that hydrogen water, when properly filtered, is really the foundation to a healthier lifestyle. It was the catalyst to me doing things like cold plunges and cold showers, breath work, and paying attention to the food that I ate, and the water that I made my food with, and what was on my food in terms of pesticides and herbicides. I find that it's, by getting back to the basics with hydrogen, it helps you almost rebuild that foundation, and start from square one, and rebuild a healthier blueprint for your life.
Oh, that's helpful. In terms of the hydroxyl radical, and maybe this is too big of a question, but is there any research that demonstrates, because you said it's the most dangerous of the oxidative stress free radical, is there any research that shows like sort of a priority, like it's like the top 50%, or does that research not exist to your knowledge?
I don't know. I'm not. I don't know of any research of that kind that exists. I know that a hydroxyl radical, the hydroxyl radical or oxidative stress, can be beneficial in times. Oxidative stress is actually beneficial when undergoing chemotherapy. Oxidative stress is, if you are a bodybuilder and you're trying to put muscle on, oxidative stress is your friend at that point, and in which case you would want to just time out when you would be ingesting your hydrogen. But in terms of where it sits on its level of damage that it does, I don't know of anything that would state that. I just know that it is the most cell damaging free radical. And again, doesn't necessarily mean that that's a bad thing. You know, apoptosis it can be good when in a balanced state. Apoptosis being the death of your cells. So we're not mortal or immortal human beings. We're mortal. Things do need to die. Your cells regenerate every 13 months, I think it is, and like for every aspect of your body. So I mean, that's also proof that there's no reason that you can't rebuild who you are, even if you are in a bad state. It's just taking it one step and one cell at a time.
Yeah, got it. That reminds me of there are a certain category of bacteria called commensal bacteria that are sometimes helpful in smaller amounts, sometimes beneficial, and often very harmful when there's too much of it. So it sounds like the free radicals can fit into a similar category.
It's the same thing. You already mentioned that about vitamin C earlier. If you take too much vitamin C, I think you did. I don't know if this is my second podcast of the day, and my baby brain is fully active here.
Well, let's make sure we understand your baby brain being that you have a 9.5-week-old baby.
Yes.
Yes, so you're very much
Sorry,
consumed
baby
with
brain
that.
didn't really put that together that I should probably mention that I have a baby.
There it is.
But hydrogen has been a huge aspect of not only my pre but postnatal for my wife. It's been a very, being going through pregnancy, inflammation and oxidative stress is at a very large rate, and you do want to manage it, but it's also a natural part of the process too. It's going to happen, and it needs to happen. Postnatal, you got to be hydrated. For breast milk to be created, it takes a lot of energy to be able to do that, and hydrogen will help keep the damage that comes with that energy at bay so that your body can continue to do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know if I read this somewhere or the word just popped in my head, but I've been thinking of the hydrogen gas, hydrogen water as not only an antioxidant, but an unstoppable antioxidant because it's so small, enters every tissue, right? There's nowhere in the body where it cannot go. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, and to from what has been proven on the mechanisms of hydrogen so far, no, it does permeate the blood-brain barrier. It permeates the skin barrier. It goes everywhere. Now, having been in this industry for close to 12 years now, I've seen a lot of people say that hydrogen is the most powerful antioxidant, and that is not true. That is not accurate. A powerful antioxidant would be vitamin C. That it reduces all oxidative stress on a large level. Hydrogen is the most efficient antioxidant, and that's due to its ability to not only get in areas that other antioxidants can't, but what it does and how it reduces oxidative stress and the aftermath from doing so. That's what makes it the most efficient antioxidant. I want to make that very clear. I think that's important to understand.
That is so helpful, and I appreciate the way you approach this. I've read some things about hydrogen water that then I read several other papers, whatever, and they say no, that's not correct at all. So you obviously you wouldn't be in the business this long if you were giving scam information. So I
Yeah,
appreciate how thorough you are in that regard.
pleasure, and I appreciate having a platform to share this information on.
Yeah. So I found out about 3 weeks ago. You found out about 11 years ago. How did you discover it? How'd you get into that?
So I was on the July 1st, or I think it was June 30th. I was in a really of 2013. I was in a really bad ATV accident. So I fractured my skull. I got traumatic brain injury. I
Mm,
almost broke my C1, C2 vertebrae, which would have left me a
wow.
quadriplegic breathing through tube at best. With a very short lifetime. Like C1, C2, that's what Christopher Reeves, the original Superman, that's what happened when he broke his neck falling off of a horse. And he lived for about 6.5 or 7 years. Not good years after that. So I'm very, very, very fortunate to be alive. I believe that God or a higher power, creator, however you want to perceive that, had a bigger plan for me. Um, when I was in the hospital, I realized, okay, I can lift heavy things up and put them down, but I'm not quite as healthy as I thought I was. Going to the gym doesn't necessarily mean you're actually healthy, especially on the inside. I would make the argument that a lot of people in the bodybuilding industry are really unhealthy, but that's a conversation for another time. So at that time, my buddy had been trying to sell me another company's water machine, and for years, and I'm like, yeah, whatever, man. Water's water. I,
Mhm.
I always laugh at that now because it's like I know that that's so far from the truth. The water is not just water. It's literally the most important part to the foundation. I mean, aside from air to breathe, the water that you drink and the quality of it should be a very big part of your life. So I invested in one of his ionizers. It was a multi-level marketing company. I had zero interest in doing the business aspect of it, but some things that had changed with my insurance business, and I wanted to make a switch in my career. So I started doing, and at this point, I thought it was the pH, the alkalinity, that was making the difference. So I had what I now call the dog and pony show, where I'd have people over and show them the pretty colors of the pH scale, thinking that's going to make a difference on their health, which I know better now. And while doing these events, I'm like, okay, if this water is really going to take off, scientists and doctors need to, give it a little bit of a sign off on it. So I wanted to at least have a conversation, at least be able to sit at the table and have the conversation about why this water is good for you. So I started doing my research outside of what the multi-level marketing company was teaching me about the water. I started learning about electrolyzed reduced water, ionized water, alkalized water, the water that comes from the machines that create this water. And I found out that in 2007, it was discovered that hydrogen was the therapeutic benefit to the water, as it acted as a selective antioxidant. And we've already covered that part, but that's where things really took off, was learning that. When I learned that the company that I was selling for didn't keep up to what I was promoting, which is the hydrogen water, not just alkaline water, I had to make some changes. And that's what ended up inevitably leading me to where I am now, and that is I am the H2 water expert, and I represent a company called Ultra Water Solutions that has everywhere from whole home filtration to the Alkaviva hydrogen ionizers, and then I also have my own company that we have the best hydrogen inhalation machine on the market too. We can get into that a little bit later, but it was the multi-level marketing company that got me started in it. If you're listening to this podcast, I'm sure you've probably someone that maybe has talked to you about it. And so I'm not going to bring up names because I don't want it to seem like I don't want it to seem like anything other than I'm extremely grateful for that company, because I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for that company. I wouldn't have been able to help the thousands of people out that I have around the world, and will continue to help out around the world if it wasn't for that. So I just want to make it clear that I'm not, speaking poorly about any company here. It's just technology. It advances, it evolves, and if you don't keep up with that, then you get left behind, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I appreciate your integrity on the matter, because there are plenty of researchers and scientists who, they discover new information and they can't seem to put it into their existing information and continue, repeating the same, now has become a false idea. And that's happening in the certainly in
How
the
could you?
alkaline water
How
industry.
could I be wrong?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we all do it, right?
Well,
At
I think.
some level, politics and that sort of
Oh,
thing.
absolutely. I mean, the thing is your opinion can change. You put the emotions and the ego aside, and I think that a lot of people have a misconception on science in general. 'Cause, how many times have we heard over the last few years, trust the science, or the science is settled? Okay, the science is never settled, nor should it be. The science is about proving what's happened in the past. As we move forward and new things are proven, it's not up to you. It's not what you personally want. It's about what is, in this case, what is best for everybody to be ingesting, and what's going to help them to the best capacity. And when you're comparing alkaline water versus hydrogen water, it's absolutely no contest.
Yeah. Have you heard of the Wiley Publishing controversy and shutdown? Any of that? So Wiley,
Uh, no, I haven't.
yeah, Wiley Publishing was a 200 some year old publishing company that was, I understand, primarily publishing scientific papers in the last however long. And they discovered, not just among Wiley, but other science papers as well, over 11,000 fraudulent papers. So, as you
Sounds about
said,
right.
people say trust the science. No, no. I mean, who's checking the fact checkers, right?
Well,
So,
yeah, I mean that's just it. Right? Like, where did this science happen? Who funded this
mm,
science?
mhm,
And when it comes to that, that's the thing that I really like about hydrogen. You can't patent it. It's a molecule.
mm,
So, the products that I represent, they create hydrogen, and it'll get you the hydrogen that you want. But all of that is based off of the studies on the actual molecule itself, not the products that are creating it or presenting it. Now, as someone with integrity and ethics, it's important for you to check up and make sure that the products that you are selling are doing that. But it's definitely a good start if they're actually promoting hydrogen. Whereas a lot of the companies, like the alkaline water, the multi-level marketing company that I was talking about, a lot of the distributors are now talking about hydrogen because you can't really refute it. But if you go on to that particular website, where the of the product that they're selling don't mention hydrogen at all. So what happened with me was I realized that I was promoting hydrogen, but I wasn't selling it. And so I had the not so difficult decision to make where, I'd sold a handful of machines with that company, and I could either stay loyal to this small handful of people because I didn't want to be wrong, um, or I could stay loyal to the cause, the purpose, and the vast amounts of people that I have now helped out properly. And so, you got to, and that's I've been an entrepreneur my whole adult life. Actually, I was door knocking when I was 5 years old, walking around with my dad's suitcase and stuff. So sales has always been my thing, but ethics have to be there too. Everybody can sell something. If you've ever influenced someone to do something that you want, you've sold them, but not everybody should be doing it for a living, because some people get too caught up in the almighty dollar sign, lose focus on the purpose, and let profits take over, not looking far enough down the road to see where the market is going, has gone, and should be going. So for me, it's purpose over profits. Do I make money from the machines I sell? Of course. I have to put food on my table. I have a family to feed, but it's not going to be at your cost like it is with some other companies out there.
yeah, I absolutely love that. Yeah, thank you for that. You mentioned being able to verify how a certain product is working. I don't recall, there are one or more sort of governing bodies that have come about that will officially verify by gas chromatography, right, the amount of hydrogen that
Yep,
this
the
unit is
IHSA.
producing.
Yeah,
IHSA.
the IHSA, that is a gold standard for hydrogen products. There are other companies that work with the IHSA, like like H2 Analytics. I have my level 1 certification through Molecular Hydrogen Institute, as that's all that's available to take right now. I used to have my level 3, but you do need to do continuing education, which I didn't do on that. So I let that go, and I've redone level 1. I'm on level 1, waiting for level 2 to come out. As soon as that comes out, I will continue to keep my certification through them at the highest level, because I respect very much Tyler LeBaron and the knowledge and education that he's brought to the market. And but there's, there's also, I mean, there's the Water Quality Association, which is great, but they're not focusing on hydrogen. They're focusing on some other parameters, not even filtration, which is interesting. But to test it, I recommend, I'm of the belief that if you want it done right, you got to do it yourself. And so you can test it yourself. You can test your machines yourself. There's a few different ways. There's a few different ways to do it. There's a few different ways not to do it. I mentioned the ORP earlier. People will test alkaline ionized water and see that it has a -6 to 800 ORP. ORP standing for oxidation reduction potential. The more negative it is, the more potential it has to reduce oxidation. At least you can be sure that it's not adding oxidation. That's one good thing that I will say about ORP. But again, as mentioned, if the hydrogen isn't present, the ORP isn't going to matter. It will not live up to its potential. I've seen other distributors for said company take a lighter to the water that's coming out of the machine, and it crackles. So that means that there's hydrogen in the water.
Mm.
No, actually, it doesn't. It means that is hydrogen, absolutely, but it's not dissolved into the water. If it's not dissolved into the water, it's not getting into your body.
And if it
And
wasn't dissolved, it wouldn't burn in that instance. Yeah.
exactly. And in that, those same people will pour a big jug of water, and they'll see all these little bubbles in the water. But again, that is not hydrogen that's dissolved in the water. The hydrogen that's dissolved in the water is invisible to the naked eye. You will not see that. So those bubbles are, they can be an indication that there could be hydrogen, but it isn't a confirmation that there is. And so there are two ways that you can test it. There are digital meters. They're around 50 to $60. It will test the pH, the ORP, and the hydrogen levels. And it'll test the levels of hydrogen in parts per million and parts per billion. I want to get back to that one, because it's also an important aspect of it. But the gold standard would be chromatography. A chromatography machine is not something you or I are going to buy. So you have to trust uh, places, the associations like the IHSA, or if you want to do it on your own, I recommend the H2 blue drops. It's a methylene blue drop. It works very similar to a pH reagent, where it'll change, it'll dissolve into the water, and it will help you test the parts per million or parts per billion of hydrogen in the water.
Yeah, very helpful. Thank you.
So you
Uh,
definitely do want to test it yourself, though.
so yeah, depend on IHSA, but test it yourself. That's one thing I haven't done yet. I want to test
Yes.
mine here pretty soon. Yeah. Um, oh, alkalinity.
Mhm.
I've tested my hydrogen water, and it's a neutral 7.0.
Yep.
Is that pretty typical?
Yeah, and that actually helps me solidify my point about ORP. ORP is very easy to manipulate. You can have water with a pH of 9.5, but no hydrogen, and the ORP is still going to show up as a -600 to -800. But again, as mentioned, without that hydrogen present, you're not going to be reducing any oxidative stress at all. And so it won't be living up to the ORP. So the hydrogen molecule is neutral. It will not change the pH of the water. So that is why with your bottle and with hydrogen, what it should be this way with hydrogen bottles is that it will always, the pH that it goes into the bottle, it will come out of the bottle. So it should be using a neutral pH. So that's why the pH doesn't change. I would venture a guess that if there is a therapeutic amount of hydrogen, but the pH is still neutral, that ORP is going to be about a -400. So that's on the ORP scale, that's less potential of reducing oxidative stress, because it's got a neutral pH but a therapeutic amount of hydrogen. You take a water that has an alkaline pH but no hydrogen, and that gets a higher negative or more negative ORP number than the water that's actually going to do that reduce the oxidative stress. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it does. It does. I hope it does to listeners. I've done
Me too.
a fair amount of reading to follow what you're saying, but very very helpful for sure. Um, when you educate people about hydrogen water, have you ever had I guess what's some of the most surprising responses you get from your listeners?
For when I'm teaching people about it, or
Yeah, when you're teaching, giving them the benefits, they'll say like, "Wow, I didn't know that," or etc.
well, I mean, it's I bring it right down to, I don't say, oh, it's going to help you with this or that or this. I'm not going to tell you that it's going to cure anything, because it's not. Anybody that says that hydrogen is curing anything, don't listen to them, because they're not correct. Hydrogen doesn't cure anything. Hydrogen, again, allows your body to get back to that balanced and optimal state so that your body can do what it's supposed to do. What that means for you individually, Rich, I don't know. You would know better. Maybe that results in better sleep. Maybe that results in improved cognitive function, increased energy levels, reduced soreness and inflammation from either exercise or something that is causing the soreness. Some people see a difference right away because they haven't been drinking the right water. That's a lot of people there, but then there's people that are already pretty healthy and they're living a fairly healthy lifestyle, and they recognize that this is a good thing to implement into their lifestyle. And then a few months go down the road, they know that they're drinking good water, it tastes great, that's nice, but you're not seeing massive changes in their life. And then they go away for a week or a weekend, and then they're stuck drinking bottled water or tap water, or water that's not coming from their properly filtered hydrogen machine, and they're getting bloated, their lips are getting dry, they're noticing in their skin and the bags under their eyes. And then they come home and they drink hydrogen water for one day, and that all goes away, and all of a sudden they have their big aha moment. Everybody's aha moment comes at one point or another. It's not if, it's when. But for everybody it will be different and unique. So I typically get the, oh well, that's cool, that seems like that makes sense. It's the most common one is, oh, I thought hydrogen, or I thought water already had hydrogen in it. So that would be the most common response, for anybody that hasn't really heard about it yet. And you asked a group of 25 to 30 people, 2 to 3 people knew about hydrogen water. Now that's grown. I guarantee you that's grown over the last couple of years, and that will grow exponentially over the next 5 to 10. But it's those that do know about it know that it's just they become water snobs, for lack of better explanation. It's like, yeah, no, I wouldn't drink any other water than this.
Yeah, that makes
Certainly not
sense.
tap water.
You were saying that everyone's going to react a little differently. I'm sure there's these hidden things that go on, right? We can't see this
Mm-hmm.
free radicals doing their job, but we can evaluate things like I've seen in many research papers that hydrogen water downregulates, the cytokine, the inflammation markers, et cetera, et cetera. So that is measurable. It may not, you might have a huge amount of inflammation, and
Yep.
therefore those are probably the people that notice it the most, right? Because their inflammation has gone down a lot.
Yep.
I focus a lot on my gut health and health. I took over the summer a homocysteine blood test, CRP, and they're extremely low, extremely low.
Yep.
So, in my case, I am not anticipate and haven't really noticed any huge differences. I think because my systemic inflammation is relatively low already. That
Mm-hmm.
sound about right?
Yep. No, that sounds exactly right. Go go another week drinking the water, and then I'll go a week without.
I should try that.
Yep. You can also get a good measurement is your ATP levels. You can measure your ATP levels there. If you go to a naturopath, I can't remember what the name of the test is off the top of my head right now. But it tests about 75 different things, and ATP production is one of those. And you can kind of if you're adventurous enough, you can measure it before and then after. And you can do those measurements 30 minutes from each other, because if you are getting a therapeutic amount of hydrogen, it won't take a very long time for your blood to recognize it. So if you do these tests, you'll see it. You can also do live blood tests. You'll and watch your blood cells. A lot of people that are living in more inflammatory, acidic, oxidized state, those blood cells are going to be bunched together. You don't want that. You want your blood cells to be vibrant. You want them to be bouncing off of each other. And you'll notice from drinking hydrogen water in a very short period of time, your blood cells immediately do that. A lot of people actually will say when they first start drinking the water that they get more thirsty. And I'm like, I said, yeah, that sounds right, because that's your body saying, hey, what is this? Give me more of it. So
Shane, that's interesting. That's exactly, you're just not reminding me, my first week of
yep,
drinking the hydro water.
yep,
Exactly
your
what
body,
happened. That's
you're that.
fascinating.
That's cool.
Huh.
It's great to hear. That's a good sign, meaning that it's doing what it should be doing, and that's a good sign that the bottle that you got. I'm assuming you got a bottle, correct?
That is correct. In fact, for anyone watching YouTube, I'll just demonstrate here. Hydrogen
Yep.
water bottle, and I crack it open, hear a little gas
Yep.
being released. Yeah, and then I'm actually thirsty right now, so
There you go.
just showing everybody. Here's the hydrogen water.
Wow. There you
I
go.
assume whatever you've got near you there is also hydrogen water.
Yeah, of course. That's what I drink all day, and I'm happy to do that. And that's one of the unique things about hydrogen as a supplement. If you have too much vitamin C, it's going to be bad for you. Whereas if you have too much hydrogen, there are no adverse effects to hydrogen, to having too much hydrogen in your body. Any hydrogen that you have in your body that your body doesn't need, it'll just expel it easily because it's hydrogen gas. They can do that. And that's something that's very that makes it even more unique when you compare it to other antioxidants or other supplements.
That's really cool. So you mentioned we get into parts per million, parts per billion.
Mm-hmm.
The bottle I have has been verified by the IHSA at
Awesome.
roughly 5 parts per million.
Okay.
So comparing to your systems, and I understand the the mechanism that produces a hydrogen is a little different than the water bottles. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what I mean, just can I get by with my water bottle, or long term should I get one of your ionizers?
Well, I mean, it comes down to a convenience. And also budget. Budget's a play on that. I live in BC, which is, some people say it's British Columbia. I say it's bring cash, because you need a lot of it to live here. So there's different variables to it, and I offer a hydrogen bottle that it's been certified by H2 Analytics to do between 5 and 6,000 parts per billion, or 5 to 6 parts per million. And that's something I've had people that are actually selling these, and this is why I want to bring it up. That I'll say, oh, my bottle will create 5 parts per million. Like, well, my bottle creates 5,000 parts per billion. It's the same.
Right.
It's the same number, just different decimal point. But hey, if you don't understand these things and nobody's explained that to you, and somebody that is just trying to market it to sell you their product, it's like, oh, mine does way more. Just a decimal point. But the bottle, I know the bottle that you have, and it's a phenomenal bottle. That is one of the best. There's 3 bottles on the market that I've seen that can actually do 5,000. I've tested dozens of them out. This bottle here claims that it can make between 9 and 10,000 parts per billion in the water. I have 2 of these, and I've tested both of them out. And while they create 4 to 5,000 parts per billion, they don't create what they're claiming that it creates. And that, as someone that is very focused on the purpose of this, and that is helping this world become a better place, starting with the water that we're ingesting. I don't like. I can't tell you how many times I hear from people. Oh, I tried looking at water or water systems, but there's just too much information out there. There's too much going on out there. Totally understand that. That is such it's a typical human response. There's too much going on out there, so I'm just going to do nothing about it at all, and I don't want that. I want you to do something for your health. I want you to do something for your family's health. Now, if you have the right bottle and the right filtration system, no, you don't need to get an ionizer, because they're 2 different technologies. This, or a hydrogen bottle, should be proton exchange membrane. If it isn't PEM and SPE, don't get it. And more importantly, reach out to someone that really does know what they're talking about, because PEM, proton exchange membrane, you're in comparison to ionization, like it gets, again, confusing. The HW.Viva H2 machines are the ionizers that I represent. And if you can afford them, I would get that over the portable bottle. Yes, I have both. I have the portable bottle because I can't bring my HW.Viva H2 machine with me everywhere I go. I can bring it with me when I'm traveling, sure, because it is a medical device, and I can do that, no problem. And I can also be sure that I'll be able to hook it up to anywhere that I can find a water source for. But they're between $3,000 to $5,000 Canadian. Is that the most expensive ionizer in the market? Absolutely not. Not even close. Is it the best ionizer in the market? 100%. But if you can't afford that, or that's, maybe it's not that you can't afford it. It's you're just not 100% sold on hydrogen yet. So maybe I want to try it out first, but I don't necessarily like those tablets because of it's basically elemental magnesium, and if it doesn't dissolve into the water properly, it doesn't make the water taste good, whereas hydrogen water should be the best water you've ever had. And also it is elemental magnesium, so if it doesn't dissolve properly, it's going to create the old grumbly tumbly, and before long you're going to be clearing rooms out, and that's not fun for anyone. So the tablets are a great option for you when if you're doing portable. But what I will say is, yes, what you're doing is phenomenal. Just make sure you have proper filtration for the water that you're putting in there. And a lot of the portable hydrogen bottle companies don't talk about this, and it needs to be talked about, because hydrogen, the molecular hydrogen, when dissolved into water, it'll make the water more bioavailable, meaning the water is going to absorb into your body quicker. So will everything else that's in the water. So for companies that are selling these ionizers but only filtering out chlorine and basically have a glorified Brita system, that is a huge problem. And I really encourage you to take a look at that before you continue to sell that product, because that's one of the many reasons why I support Ultra Water Solutions and HW.Viva H2, is they're the only company that is removing 249 contaminants, including fluoride, from the water, but can actually prove it with third-party EPA approved lab testing. We're the only company that does that. And it's not the magic of what happens with water. With an ionizer, it's going to go through an electrolysis process and create 8 different levels of water. It will affect the alkalinity and the acidity. It'll create the pH, but this is a good thing because you can use these waters for cooking, for cleaning, for skincare, for watering your plants, so on and so forth. And that is something that I take a very, very big passion in, is if we're going to invest in this type of technology for you and your family's health, I want to make sure that you're using it to the best of its ability. Is it worth it for the filtration and the hydrogen production that you get from the machine and have an unlimited source of it right at your fingertips? Absolutely. But again, it makes 8 different levels of water, so you might as well use it, and that brings in a whole bunch of more value to your investment in your water machine. You can replace skin toner for skincare. You can get rid of eczema, psoriasis, and get rid of the creams that you use for that. You can using it for cooking. If you like to cook and you like to make your own food, making your own food with this water is unbelievable. Every Christmas and Thanksgiving and Easter, anytime my family makes a turkey, they just automatically know the rest goes to the leftovers go to me, because I'm going to make a big 20-liter broth out of it, only using a tablespoon and a half of salt, because the water from my machine is pulling the flavors out of the turkey and the vegetables and everything that's in that broth that much more. And then you're making a big, huge pot of extremely healthy soup that that is actually doing what the turkey and chicken soups are supposed to be doing. We went awry along the way there when we'd get sick at school and you'd go and lay on your couch and have the Vicks vapor rub and the Campbell's condensed chicken noodle soup and thinks that's helping you. We've done some things wrong, but that's okay. We're righting those wrongs as we speak. The chicken noodle soup. But yeah, that's the point with the HW HU machines. It's just, you do get a lot more value. But if it comes down to getting the health benefits of the hydrogen, then the bottle is a phenomenal option for a lot of people.
And
And
I'm
it's
here.
just,
And sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's just a matter of making sure that the water is filtered before you use it in these bottles.
Yeah.
One thing that is going to make sure.
I've heard of course, my bottle produces like 7 ounces at a time. Between my wife and I'm like, hey, I'm going to start it again. So it's very inconvenient. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm reading about the hydrogen, of course, is absorbed through your skin transdermally. So people
Mhm.
are taking hydrogen baths, a hydrogen soak. If you've got a sore joint or whatever it is. So your ionizer is going to produce plenty of water for that. I don't know about a bath. Could you produce a whole bath?
Well, it's so the ionizers only work on cold water. So if you want to do a cold dip, then by all means.
I gotcha. I gotcha.
If you
Okay.
want to bathe in hydrogen, that's why I mentioned tech4health.ca earlier. That is my company that I started. I started because my business partner, I sold my business partner an Alkaviva H2 machine. He's very much like you, Rich. He's just went deep into the rabbit hole of hydrogen and learned a lot really quick. And you learned that inhalation very much has a place in the market. And so, but the problem is there's a lot of machines out there that aren't creating the amount of hydrogen that you need for it to be therapeutic with the inhalation. Again, just like the water bottles, there's companies making claims that they're not able to back up. And so we released what the Tech Pro 900. What that machine does is it takes distilled water. It must be between 0 and 5 parts per million. You do not want minerals in that, because minerals will scale on to the electrolysis plate and ruin your investment as quickly as you got it. And it takes the pure H2O, which is distilled water, and splits it into hydrogen gas and oxygen gas. It creates enough hydrogen gas for 2 people to be able to use the machine at the same time and getting well over a therapeutic amount. It creates the oxygen gas that can be inhaled on its own, or you can combine the two and create oxyhydrogen gas, or what's known as Brown's gas, which has its own benefits. Now, the reason we decided to bring this into the market is because inhalation, if you look at any of the studies with hydrogen that are respiratory, cardiovascular, and neurological, 90% of the time it's going to be done using inhalation. What I like about the Tech Pro 900 is it can create hydrogen gas to be inhaled. You can bubble that hydrogen gas into a glass or a vessel of water and create a therapeutic amount of hydrogen without changing the pH with less than 5 minutes. Or you can take that same attachment and put it into your bathtub, warm bathtub, and you can bathe in the hydrogen that way. So you're taking 3 out of the 4 main ways of ingesting hydrogen, the fourth being hydrogen-rich saline, which isn't at a consumer level, and you're putting it all into one amazing machine. And what also sets us apart, aside from the fact that we're about the same price as a machine that does 1/3 of the hydrogen production in our machine, but it also comes with really 2 really cool accessories. So it comes with earmuffs, so you can actually inhale the hydrogen through your ears. So for people with tinnitus, migraines, even myself who's had traumatic brain injury, having that hydrogen deliver right in through your ear canal is really cool. We've also got goggles so that you can ingest the hydrogen right through your eyes. So glaucoma, cataracts, even just bags under your eyes, just for aesthetic purposes. Phenomenal. And so the Tech Pro 900 really packs a huge punch. And in terms of inhalation, the more studies that come out on inhalation, the more they realize that you got to have a base mark, a minimum amount of hydrogen that you're getting. So, and that started at 120 milliliters per minute. Now it's at about 240 milliliters per minute to get that therapeutic amount of hydrogen. Anything over that, like I said, your body will just reject. And with the Tech Pro 900, just out of the one hydrogen port, you're getting 600 milliliters per minute. So you could split that between 2 people and you're still getting over what is considered to be a therapeutic amount per minute. Very, very impressive machine.
Yeah, for sure. And so many uses that I had, as much as I have crammed into the last 3 weeks, I had not seen those applications. You mentioned before, increased ATP production. I think most people just hear that as sort of some sciencey thing, but my experience was I had plantar fasciitis. I was in the chiropractor, and he did a low-level laser treatment, and I did my research on that, and its method is to increase ATP production, and I had this thing for like 6-7 months. And it got rid of my plantar fasciitis like nothing else.
Amazing.
So those, yeah. And you're saying hydrogen inhalation increases ATP among
Yep.
many, many other things. So
Yep.
just a different way of looking at that.
Yeah. And one thing I wonder about that with the cold laser therapy is you mentioned it increases ATP. What about the reaction for that action? Because that if you're creating more ATP, then you are, as a byproduct, creating more hydroxyl radicals. So as long if your gut and your body's ability to produce that hydrogen isn't there, it might cause some issues there. You seem like you have a fairly healthy lifestyle. You have a podcast on and talk about gut health. I would hope that you have a healthier lifestyle, but no, it's interesting to see what it does for different people. Because for me, it was acid reflux. I was 27 years old. I was on prescription heartburn medication, which is it's called Nexium, which is not only expensive if you don't have the coverage, but it's just a very expensive Band-Aid that is actually causing more problems than you really realize.
Is that a proton
I
pump
haven't.
inhibitor?
Sorry?
Nexium? Proton pump inhibitor, the
Yeah,
Nexium?
PPI.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Which are,
terrible.
yeah, terrible for you long term.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, and if I didn't take a Nexium, which within a day and a half, 2 days, I'd have debilitating heartburn. Like I'd be miserable because living in a state of pain isn't living at all. And I couldn't drink anything other than milk. And
Wow.
I can't even say milk without even like wanting to almost vomit when I say it, because it's like that's all I drank. Like, oh, no wonder I wasn't it wasn't very healthy. Like that's got like milk isn't the milk that we used to drink. That's for
Right.
darn sure. And if that's all you can drink and you're not taking care of the issue, if I didn't have that ATV accident and almost died from that, I would have been in the hospital for completely other reasons sooner than I probably would have liked to admit. So,
As most of society is headed that way. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
this is
unfortunately.
Yeah, for sure. This is, as you mentioned, a gut health podcast. So I'd be remiss not to mention some benefits of hydrogen water on the gut, on the microbiome, and folks can Google that on their own.
Please do.
Just Google hydrogen water microbiome, and you'll find endless things. But two of them caught my attention. If you want to comment on them or
Hmm.
anything else that you have found, many of our listeners will know that what's called leaky gut happens because the tight junctions in the colonic cells are opened up and things literally leak into the bloodstream, toxins,
Hmm.
bacteria, those sorts of things. And I did not realize, though, that it totally makes sense that oxidative stress is another thing that causes leaky gut. So clearly, then, when you have this unstoppable selective antioxidant, that's going to help heal the leaky gut. I was fascinated by that. And then also in my own gut health process, I've been trying to increase a short chain fatty acid called butyrate. It's largely
Hmm.
considered to be sort of the king of the short chain fatty acids, and found some research saying that hydrogen water can also increase the butyrate, which is the thing that feeds the colonocytes, which also helps prevent or heal a leaky
The
gut.
leak.
So
That's
yeah,
interesting because I've recently seen it's a beat rate, right? That's
correct.
it's an insulin regulator. Like it helps regulate insulin. I think that's what it's sold as a supplement. I have it in my cupboard at home. That's funny.
Okay, do you have
Yeah.
like a tributyrin by chance?
I will take a picture of it when I get home, and I'll send it to you.
Okay,
I haven't taken it. I was just I was intrigued by it. But it's just funny that you said I haven't seen the study that you're referencing, which is surprising to me. But they're coming out so hot and heavy now, that it's tough for me to keep up, especially also with a 9.5 week old baby at home. Um, Please send
absolutely.
me that link. That's an interesting word. Or did you already send that one to me?
The links would be in the
Oh,
notes I'd
yep,
sent you
yep, I got
before.
it.
So yep, yep. So fascinating stuff. Well, Shayne, I learned so much, and I hope our listeners will begin to wrap their heads around this. It's complicated, but it's also very, very simple. Let's keep that in
Yes.
mind. But this is the Resilient Biome podcast, so I'll ask you, what is your top recommendation our listeners can do to either, I'll give you a choice, to have a more resilient biome or just more resilient health?
Well, I mean, I gotta say hydrogen water. I just have to, and the reason being hydrogen water, is because I mentioned how hydrogen inhalation helps with respiratory, cardiovascular, neurological. Most of the digestive studies will be using HRW or hydrogen-rich water. What whatever way, whether it's a portable bottle, the ionizer, the inhalation machine, and bubbling the gas in yourself. Try it. Try it. You're gonna see, everybody sees something sooner or later. And I would make the argument that everybody at this point needs hydrogen. And the cool thing is if you are that healthy and your body doesn't need it, it's not going to do any damage to you by ingesting it or incorporating it to. So that's my answer to how you would improve the gut microbiome is through hydrogen rich water, properly
Yeah,
filtered hydrogen rich water.
There you go. There you go. I would agree. Shane, anything we missed that you wanted to mention?
I mean, I'll end it like I do most of my live videos and podcasts, and remind everybody with my tagline that if you don't filter your water, you become the filter for your water. So regardless of if you're able to get hydrogen in your water or not, make sure you're filtering your water properly and purifying that. Because just because your water is pure or clear doesn't mean it's pure. So
Yeah.
that's one thing that if you're going to have hydrogen rich water, again, I cannot emphasize it enough. Make sure you have proper filtration. And if you have questions on that, reach out to people like Rich or myself, and we can point you in the right direction. I don't think you're in, I'm not, in the business of selling anyone. I'm in the business of helping people make an informed decision for them and their family's health. And if that's what, if with my products, great. If not, as long as you have the right information out there, because there's a lot of information out there, some of it accurate, some of it not, then I've done my job properly.
Yeah, I love that. Another statement of integrity. So I appreciate that, Shane. So again, thanks for your time. You're busy, but thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, Rich. Appreciate it.